"Your father died crying," the rival boss whispered, right before the bullets started flying. "He wanted to break me. He wanted to see the poor waitress crumble in a room full of Italian and Russian Mafia elites. Instead, I stared him down and threatened to burn his entire shadow network to the ground. They tried to bury the truth about the missing girls my dad died protecting, but they didn't realize I kept the receipts. Now it's not just a mob war, it's absolute vengeance." At 3 a.m, New York did not sleep. It only changed its face. The bright city became wet and hollow. The laughing crowds disappeared behind locked doors. The rich went home in black cars. The poor stayed awake under fluorescent lights, pouring coffee, washing dishes, wiping tables, counting tips, and pretending exhaustion was normal. That was where I lived. Not in the postcard version of New York, not in the city of rooftop bars, museum galas, and glass towers glowing above the river. I lived in the other New York, the one that smelled like burnt coffee, wet coats, cheap bleach, old grease, and the quiet shame of being one bill away from losing everything. My name was Elena Chen. I was 26 years old, and I had already learned how to smile when men looked through me, how to laugh when customers insulted me, how to say, "More coffee," when what I really wanted to say was, "Please see me as a human being." That night, my feet hurt so badly I could feel each bone. My back ached. My hands smelled like dish soap and onions. My rent was 16 days late. My landlord had called 7 times and left one message that said, "Last warning." I had $32 in my checking account, 2 unopened envelopes from debt collectors, and my grandmother seized jewelry box under my bed, because I still could not bring myself to open it. She had raised me after my mother worked herself sick. She had taught me that poor did not mean worthless. She had taught me to stand straight, even when life tried to fold me in half. But that night, under the buzzing diner lights, I did not feel straight. I felt invisible. I wiped the same spot on the counter again and again. The stain did not come out. Maybe because the stain was not really on the counter. Maybe it was inside me. Outside, rain hit the windows hard. Neon from the liquor store across the street bled red and blue across the glass. 2 men slept in separate booths, heads down, jackets pulled up. A taxi driver sat near the door, eating toast with one hand while scrolling with the other. Jerry, the night cook, was in the kitchen, singing badly to an old radio. It was an ordinary bad night. Then the bell above the door rang, and ordinary ended. 3 men stepped inside. They brought the rain with them. They brought silence too. Not soft silence, not tired silence. A hard silence. The kind a room makes when everyone understands danger before anyone says a word. The 2 men on the sides were built like walls. Dark coats, blank faces, eyes that moved too much and missed nothing. Private security, I thought. Maybe worse. But the man between them was the one who made my hand freeze around the cloth. He was tall, broad-shouldered, clean in a way that felt almost violent inside that diner. His black hair was slicked back from a face too sharp to be kind. His suit was charcoal gray. Expensive, perfect, no tie, no wasted movement. He did not look around like a customer. He looked around like a man measuring ownership. I knew him before anyone said his name. Everyone in that neighborhood knew him, Dmitry Vulov. His family owned pieces of the city nobody admitted were owned. Construction companies, waste routes, clubs, warehouses by the water, gambling rooms, import businesses, debt offices, men who smiled too calmly. Men who vanished after making the wrong promise. His father had built the empire with fear. Dmitry had inherited it 3 years earlier and made it quieter, cleaner, and more dangerous. That was what people said. I tried not to stare. Men like him did not like being stared at. Men like him also noticed when you tried too hard not to. He walked to the back booth, the one with a view of the front door and the kitchen. Of course he did. Men like him never sat with their backs exposed. One guard stayed near the front. The other sat across from him. Dmitry looked at me. Not through me. At me. I hated that my pulse changed. I hated that. For 1 second, I forgot the rent, the debt, the ache in my feet. I grabbed the coffee pot and walked over. My shoes squeaked against the old floor. "Coffee," one guard said. He did not ask. He commanded. I poured 3 cups. My hands were steady, 'cause I had learned long ago that fear did not deserve the dignity of being seen. Dmitry watched me pour. Rough night. His voice was low. Calm, it carried a slight accent. Not heavy, just enough to make each word feel polished at the edge. I should have said nothing. I should have smiled and walked away. But exhaustion makes rebels of people who have nothing left to lose. Every night is rough at 3 a.m. The guard looked up. Jerry's radio suddenly seemed too loud. Dimitri's mouth curved slightly. Not a smile. Almost one. What is your name? Elena. I said it before I could stop myself. His eyes held mine. Gray, not soft gray. Not gentle gray. Storm gray. Gunmetal gray. Elena, he repeated, like he was testing whether the name belonged in his mouth. I know who you are. The words came out too fast. Too sharp. The guard across from him shifted. Dimitri did not. His almost smile disappeared, but not in anger. In interest. And yet you are still standing here. I have coffee to pour. For 1 second. Something almost human passed across his face. Not warmth. Not exactly. More like surprise. Like he had forgotten that some people had to work, even when monsters entered the room. Go back to work, Elena. I went. I felt his eyes on me, while I refilled sugar containers that did not need refilling. The taxi driver left money on the table and slipped out without finishing his toast. One sleeping man woke, saw who was in the booth, and left too. The other followed. Smart people know when a room is no longer safe. 20 minutes passed. Dimitri spoke in Russian on the phone. His voice stayed low, but the whole room seemed to lean toward it. I cleaned. I listened without listening. I watched the clock. 3:27, 3:31, 3:38. Then the bell rang again. This time there was no silence first. There was wrongness. 2 men entered, wet coats. Hard eyes, one tall and thin, with a scar cutting from his temple to his jaw, the other shorter, thick through the chest, with his right hand inside his jacket. I saw the hand first, maybe because I had spent years reading danger before it spoke. Drunk men, angry men, men who smiled before grabbing your wrist. You learn to see hands. You learn where trouble begins. Dimitri's guards saw them too, but a fraction too late. Vulov, the scarred man said. His accent was thick. You were difficult to find. Dimitri became still. Not stiff. Still, like a knife lying on a table. That was the point. Sergei. The name moved through the diner like cold air. Leave while you can. Sergei smiled. Your father's city, not yours. The shorter man moved his hand. I saw metal, a gun. Time did not stop. People say that, but it is not true. Time becomes cruel. It shows you every detail and gives you no room to think. The gun rising. Dimitri's guard reaching under his coat. Sergei stepping sideways. Dimitri turning his head. The barrel lining up with the booth. I could have ducked. I should have ducked. I was a waitress. I was not brave. I was not trained. I was not important. But in that 1 second, all I saw was a man about to die while looking directly at me. And my body moved before fear could stop it. I dropped the coffee pot. It shattered on the floor. I ran across the diner, grabbed Dimitri's jacket with both hands, and pulled with everything I had. He was heavier than me, stronger than me. But surprise did what strength could not. We crashed down under the table. The gunshot hit the booth behind him. Foam and vinyl exploded where his head had been. Then the world broke open. More shots. Shouting. The smell of gunpowder. Glass falling. Dimitri's body covered mine. One arm over my head. His breath hot against my ear. Do not move, he said. His voice was no longer polished. It was rough. Alive, do not make a sound. I did not. I could not. Above us, men yelled in Russian and Ukrainian. A chair flipped. Someone groaned. Feet ran. The bell above the door rang wildly as the attackers fled into the rain. Then there was nothing except my heart beating so hard. I thought it would break my ribs. Dimitri did not move away. His hand was at the back of my head, fingers tangled in my hair, holding me against the filthy diner floor as if the world might still take me. One of his guards spoke first. Boss, they re-gone. Sergei's hit, not down. Cook ran out the back. No other witnesses. Dimitri's chest rose and fell against mine. Secure the block. Find Sergei. Buy the building if necessary. This place is closed by morning. Boss. The girl I know. His weight lifted. Cold air hit me. I pushed myself up on shaking arms. The diner looked like a war zone. Bullet holes in the booth. Coffee across the floor. A smear of red near the door. My apron was wet with rainwater. See coffee or something I refused to name. Dimitri stood over me, his suit torn at the shoulder, his gray eyes fixed on my face. Not grateful. Not simply. Something darker. Something that made my skin prickle. You saved my life. I did not think. No, he crouched in front of me, slow like I was an injured animal. You did not. That is what makes it dangerous. I laughed once. It came out broken. Dangerous. I just got shot at because of you. You got shot at because you pulled me away from a bullet meant for me. They saw your face. His voice lowered. That means you are no longer a waitress who happened to be in the room. You are leverage. No, I stood too fast and almost fell. He caught my elbow. I jerked away. No, I am going home. I am calling the police. The police will ask questions. Some of them will sell those questions before sunrise. Then I'll go somewhere else. Where? He asked it gently, and I hated him for that. Your apartment 3 blocks away. The one with the broken lock and the landlord who waits outside your door when he drinks. My stomach dropped. How do you know that? I know this neighborhood. You know too much. Not enough. Not yet. A black SUV pulled up outside, silent despite the rain. One of his guards opened the door. Dmitri looked at me. And, for the first time, I saw the cost of his life in his face. Not fear for himself. Fear because I had stepped into his world, and the door had shut behind me. Elena, listen to me. You do not have to trust me. You should not trust me. But if you walk out alone tonight, Sergei will find you before morning. If Konstantin sent him, others will follow. Come with me until I can make this safe. And if I refuse, then I put guards on every street, between here and your apartment, and still spend the night. Knowing it may not be enough, he paused. I will not drag you, but I will not lie to you either. That mattered. Not enough, but a little. I looked at the shattered diner, at the counter where I had spent years being invisible, at the rain outside, at the man whose life I had saved, for reasons I still did not understand. My knees shook, my hands shook, but my grandmother's voice rose somewhere inside me. Stand straight, even when the world wants you bent. I am not yours, I said. Dimitri's jaw tightened, as if the words hit somewhere old. No, he said, you are not. Then softer. But tonight, you are under my protection. I got into the SUV. The door closed with a heavy sound, not like a prison door. Not exactly. More like the end of one life, and the beginning of another I had not chosen yet. The ride to Manhattan felt unreal. Rain streaked down the tinted windows. The city blurred into long lines of red and white light. Dmitri sat beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat of him, but not touching. That distance mattered more than I wanted to admit. His guard in the passenger seat spoke into a phone in Russian. Victor drove. No one played music. No one asked if I was all right. Maybe because everyone knew I was not. We passed my apartment building. I saw the broken awning, the deli below it, the window of my studio, dark and small. Everything I owned was in there. My grandmother's Spock's, my mother's old scarf, a thrift store copy of Jane Eyre with notes in the margins. My life looked so fragile from inside that bulletproof car. My things, I said. My voice barely worked. They will be collected. By strangers. By people who know how to keep you alive. Those are not the same thing. Dmitri turned his head. No, they are not. He said it like he was filing the difference away. Like he did not fully understand yet, but intended to. That was the first small crack in the wall between us. He was not gentle, not naturally, but he was observant, and sometimes observation is where respect begins. The penthouse did not feel like a home. It felt like a museum built by a lonely man who did not know what softness was for. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked over Central Park. The furniture was low and expensive. The walls held dark paintings and black and white photographs of places I had never been. Everything was clean, perfect, cold. Nothing like my apartment with its cracked radiator, leaning bookshelf, and cheap curtains I had bought from a thrift store, because they were the only ones that fit. Dmitri brought me in through a private elevator. 2 guards stayed behind us. One went ahead. A woman in her 50s met us at the entrance, wearing a navy dress and an expression that somehow managed to be kind without being curious. Miss Chen, she said, I am Irina. I keep the household. The household. As if this were a small hotel instead of one man's home. You are wet. Come, I have towels, tea, and clothes. I don't need. I stopped because my teeth were chattering. Pride is easier when you are warm. Irina did not smile like she had won. She simply nodded and led me to a guest room larger than my entire apartment. There was a bathroom with marble floors, folded towels thick as blankets, and a shower with more knobs than I knew how to use. On the bed lay sweatpants, a sweater, and socks. All new, all soft. I showered with the door locked. Then I locked it again. Then I stood under the hot water until my skin turned pink, and the sound of gunshots stopped replaying for more than 5 seconds at a time. When I came out, my ruined uniform was gone. The new clothes fit well enough. That bothered me. Everything bothered me. The tea waiting by the window bothered me. The view bothered me. Dimitri's quiet voice from the hall bothered me most of all. He was speaking Russian. Sharp, controlled phrases. Men answering. Phones buzzing. The machine of his world had started moving because of me, or around me. I could not tell the difference. Near dawn, I opened the bedroom door and found a guard outside. Shaved head, scar through one eyebrow, big enough to block the hallway without trying. "Miss Elena," he said, "I am Victor. Are you here to keep people out, or keep me in?" He looked at me for a moment. Tonight, both. At least he was honest. "Where is Dimitri?" "Office, I want to speak to him." Victor did not move. I lifted my chin. He studied me, then stepped aside. This way, Dimitri's office had 3 monitors, a wall of books, and a desk that looked older than most buildings I had lived in. He stood when I entered. He had changed into a black shirt and dark trousers. There was a bandage near his shoulder where fabric had torn earlier. He looked less like a myth and more like a man who had not slept in years. "Elena, do not say my name like that." "Like what?" "Like you know me." He accepted that with a small nod. "Fair." I crossed my arms because I did not know what else to do with them. "I want to go home. Your belongings are being packed." "That is not what I said. Your apartment is not secure. It is still mine. Your landlord accepted 6 months' rent and a fee to break the lease." The room went very quiet. I felt heat rise behind my eyes. "You had no right. I had every responsibility." "No," my voice cracked. I hated that. "You do not get to turn my life upside down and call it protection." Dimitri came around the desk, but stopped several feet away. A careful distance. I noticed. I wished I had not. "You are right." That took the breath out of my anger for half a second. "What?" I said. "You are right. I moved too fast. I made decisions because that is what I do when there is a threat. I close doors. I remove variables. I control the field." His mouth tightened. "That may keep people alive in my world. It does not make it respectful." The word respectful sounded strange in his voice, like a tool he had never used before. "Then undo it. The rent is paid. Your belongings are safer here than there, but I can have them stored wherever you choose. I can arrange a hotel under a different name. A safe house. Another apartment. With guards. Yes, so still a cage. A cage has no door." He reached into his desk drawer, took out a key card, and placed it on the desk between us. "This opens the elevator. Victor will not stop you from leaving this apartment, but if you leave without protection, I cannot promise you will survive the night." I stared at the card. It should have made me feel free. Instead, it made the danger real. Why would anyone come after me? I am nobody. Dimitri's eyes sharpened. "Never say that again." It was not loud. That made it worse. "You do not know what I am. I know what you did." That was panic. No, panic hides. Courage moves while afraid. "Do not make me into something noble, because it makes your debt easier to carry." Something changed in his face. A flicker. Pain, maybe. "My debt is not easy." For a moment, neither of us spoke. Rain whispered against the windows. Far below, the city kept moving, like nothing had happened. "Who is Konstantin?" I asked. Dimitri looked away first. That scared me more than the gunshots. "Konstantin Fedorov. Old network. Ukrainian. My father had agreements with men like him. Borders. Ports. Money. After my father died, some of them decided I was young enough to test. And Sergei works for him. Likely, so this is about territory." "Yes, then why me?" "Because men like Konstantin look for pressure points. Money, family, fear, shame. They saw you pull me out of the line of fire. That makes them wonder what you are worth to me." I laughed, but it was bitter. "I met you 5 hours ago." "I know, then I am worth nothing." Dimitri's face hardened. "That is where they will be wrong." I should have been afraid of that sentence. I was, but something else moved under the fear. Not romance. Not yet. Something more dangerous because it had roots in a wound. The ache of being seen after years of being looked through. I stepped back. "I need sleep. The guest room is yours. Nothing here is mine." "Then use it anyway." I turned to leave. He spoke again, softer. "Elena." I stopped, but did not look back. "I am not asking you to like me. I am asking you to stay alive long enough to hate me properly, against my will." A laugh escaped. Small, exhausted, almost real. I went back to the room and did not sleep. Morning came pale and cold. Irina brought breakfast on a tray. Fresh. Fruit. Eggs. Toast. Coffee that did not taste burned. She moved around the room with quiet confidence, opening curtains, setting down plates, pretending not to notice that I had spent the night, sitting in a chair with a lamp on. "Mr. Vulov asked that you eat," she said. "Mr. Vulov seems to ask for many things without asking." Her mouth twitched. "Yes, he is learning." I looked at her. Learning what? That people are not territories. That should have been comforting. It was not. It meant there had been a time when he did not know. By noon my belongings arrived. 3 suitcases and 6 boxes. My whole life. packed by strangers. My grandmother's jewelry box sat on top of one box, wrapped in a towel. I touched it and nearly broke. Dimitri did not come in. That helped. That hurt. I unpacked because doing something with my hands was better than shaking. In the closet, my thrift store clothes looked embarrassed. Beside the new things Irina said had been sent for options: jeans, sweaters, dresses, shoes. All expensive. All too much. I left them untouched except for a plain cream sweater, because my own clothes smelled like smoke. Later, Victor came to the door. Mr. Vulov has information. About Sergei. Yes, I followed him. This time, Dimitri was not behind the desk. He stood by the window, phone in hand. We found him. My stomach turned. Alive, yes. What happens now? I question him. You mean hurt him? If necessary. I want to see him. Victor looked at Dimitri. Dimitri looked at me. No, I was there. He tried to kill me too. Which is why you should not be near him. No. Which is why I should know his face, his voice, his reason. I am tired of men deciding what I can survive. Dimitri's eyes narrowed, but not in anger. In reassessment, that became a pattern with him. I would speak, and he would be forced to move a piece of himself he thought was fixed. You will stay behind glass, he said. You will not speak unless I say it is safe. I am not a child. No, he said. You are a civilian walking into a room built by wolves. Then let me learn where the teeth are. We drove to Red Hook in a black SUV with tinted windows. I watched Manhattan turn into warehouses and water. The air near the docks smelled like rust and salt. The building Dimitri's men took us to had no sign. Inside it was clean in the way places are clean when people know stains may happen. Sergei was tied to a metal chair in the center of the room. His shoulder was bandaged. His face was bruised. I looked at him and felt no victory, only a strange, hollow sadness. He was not a movie villain. He was a man, a dangerous man, a wounded man. A man who had pointed a gun into a diner where strangers could have died. Dimitri stood in front of him, calm as winter. Who sent you? Sergei spat at the floor. Dimitri did not react. He took out his phone, tapped the screen, and turned it around. Sergei's face changed. No, Anya, Dimitri said. 16, ballet, good grades, Prague. My blood went cold. Sergei whispered. She is a child. Dimitri's voice stayed soft. So was the girl pouring coffee last night when your man fired across the room. Innocent is innocent only when it belongs to you. I stepped forward before I could stop myself. Victor's hand lifted, not touching me, just warning. Dimitri glanced back. I held his eyes. Do not hurt the girl. Sergei looked at me then. Really looked. Maybe he remembered the diner. Maybe he remembered that I had been close enough to die. Dimitri turned back to him. I do not hurt children. I do not punish women for men's wars. But I will remove every lie around you until you have nothing left to hide behind. Talk, and your daughter never knows what you are. Stay silent. And Constantine will decide what happens to her when you are no longer useful. That was the difference, I realized. Dimitri did not have to touch the girl to use the truth. It was still ugly. It was still frightening, but it was not careless. Sergei broke within 10 minutes. Konstantin Fedorov had sent him. Konstantin wanted Dimitri dead before a meeting with the Italian families. Konstantin believed Dimitri's empire would fracture if he fell suddenly. The attack at the diner had not been random. Dimitri went there often, always late, always with fewer men than usual. Why the diner? I asked before anyone could stop me. Sergei's eyes moved to Dimitri. Because ghosts make men stupid. Dimitri went very still. Later, in the car, he told me what that meant. His father used to take him to that diner when he was a boy, before he became boss, before Dimitri became heir. They would sit in the back booth and eat pancakes after midnight. It was the only place he was just my father, Dimitri said, staring out at the dark water. Not a king, not a butcher, just a man asking his son if he wanted syrup. His voice made something inside me ache. Then I remembered Sergei in the chair. I remembered Dimitri saying Anya's name like a blade. You are not easy to understand. I said, good. That was not a compliment. I know, he looked at me then. But simple men are usually lying. When we returned to the penthouse, Irina made tea. Victor checked every room. Dimitri took phone calls for hours. I sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, and watched the city light up. Every few minutes, Dimitri's eyes found me, checking, counting, making sure I was still there. It should have felt suffocating. Sometimes it did. But after seeing Sergei, after hearing Konstantin's name, after understanding that my face was now part of a war I had never asked to join, the attention also felt like a wall between me and the dark. Near midnight, I found Dmitri standing in the hallway outside my room, shirt sleeves rolled up, a glass of water in his hand. "Can T's sleep?" he asked. "Can you?" "No, too many enemies. Too many ghosts." He said it without drama. That made it land harder. I looked at the scar cutting through his eyebrow. "How did you get that?" He touched it like he had forgotten it was there. "My father. I was 12. I questioned him in front of his men. His ring split the skin." I swallowed. "That is abuse." He looked at me for a long moment. "In my house. It was education. Your house was wrong." The words came out firm. Not loud, not careful. Firm. Dmitri stared at me as if I had translated a language he knew, but had never heard spoken kindly. "Yes," he said at last. "It was. That was the first night I saw the man under the armor. Not enough to trust him. Not enough to forgive what he was. But enough to understand that monsters are not always born. Sometimes they are trained. And sometimes the tragedy is not that they become dangerous. It is that nobody ever told them they were allowed to become anything else." I went back to my room, with my heart out too loud and my thoughts moving too fast. On the nightstand, beside the tea Irina had left, there was a folded piece of paper. Not a letter, a receipt. My grandmother's final hospital bill, paid in full. I stared at the words until they blurred. Then I saw the note beneath it, written in Dmitri's sharp hand. This was not meant to buy forgiveness. It was a debt that should never have belonged to you. I hated him for doing it. I hated myself for feeling relief. I sat on the edge of the bed and cried so quietly I barely made a sound. Because sometimes help arrives from the wrong hands. And when you have been drowning long enough, even the wrong hand can feel like air. The next morning, I found Dmitri in the kitchen before anyone else was awake. That surprised me. Men like him seemed like they should appear fully dressed behind desks, not stand barefoot in a dark kitchen, staring at a coffee machine, like it had personally betrayed him. He wore a black t-shirt and sweatpants. His hair was still damp from a shower. Without the suit, he looked younger, still dangerous, but less untouchable. "Is the machine winning?" I asked. He glanced over his shoulder. "It has too many buttons. You run half the city and fear a coffee machine." "I do not fear it." The machine hissed loudly. Dmitri stepped back. I laughed before I could stop myself. It felt strange in my chest. Rusty. He looked at me. And for a moment, there was no gunfire, no Sergei, no debt, no shadow at the windows. Just a tired woman and a dangerous man, trying to make coffee in a kitchen too expensive for either of them to know how to use naturally. "Move," I said. "You rehurting its feelings." "It has feelings. Everything has feelings if you are bad enough at operating it." I showed him how to make coffee the way Jerry had taught me years ago. Not fancy. Strong, simple. Hot enough to wake the dead. He watched carefully, as if the steps mattered. As if learning this small thing from me was a kind of treaty. "At the diner," he said after a while, "you always smelled like coffee." I looked at him. "That is not a compliment. It was not meant as an insult. Good. Because you always smell like leather, expensive soap, and bad decisions." His mouth twitched. "That is accurate." I handed him a mug. He took one sip and made a face. "This is terrible. This is honest coffee. It tastes like high punishment. That is how working people know they are alive." He took another sip anyway. There was something oddly intimate about that. Not romantic in the soft way. Not, but human. He drank the bad coffee because I gave it to him. And I realized that, somewhere between fear and anger, I had started collecting proof that he could be taught. Constantine did not attack first with bullets again. That was what made him frightening. A man with a gun can be seen. A man with patience enters through cracks. The next morning, a brown envelope arrived at the penthouse desk. No return address. No fingerprints. According to Victor, inside were photographs. Me leaving the diner years ago. Me standing outside my apartment. Me at my grandmother's funeral. Black coat too thin for the weather. Face swollen from crying. There was a copy of my birth certificate, my old school record, my mother's death certificate, my grandmother's hospital bill. At the bottom of the envelope sat one small photo I had never seen before. A man in his 30s, Chinese-American, handsome in a tired way, standing beside a black car. On the back, someone had written, Marcus Chen, 2009, my father. I knew it before Dmitri said anything. Not because I remembered him clearly. I had been 6 when he vanished from my life. I remembered his hands more than his face. A watch with a cracked band. The smell of cigarettes. A laugh that made my mother go quiet instead of smile. She never spoke much about him. He was not a good man, she told me once. But he was your father. And someday you will have to decide what to do with that. I had decided by not deciding. I made him a blank space. A closed door. Now Constantine had opened it and placed the handle in Dimitri's hand. What is this? I asked. Dimitri's face had gone hard, but there was something behind it. Not surprise. Recognition. My stomach turned. You know that name. Elena, do not. My voice shook. Do not use that tone. What do you know? He dismissed everyone from the room except Victor. Then dismissed Victor too when I looked at him. For once, the penthouse felt too quiet. Dimitri stood across from me, the envelope on the desk between us like a body. I had my people run a background check on you after the diner. Standard security. Of course you did. Your father worked in Chinatown. Low-level collections. Enforcement. Not for me. For my father. The air left my lungs slowly. For the Vulovs. Yes. What happened to him? Dimitri did not look away. I will give him that. He had many sins, but cowardice was not one of them. He was killed 15 years ago. No, it came out like a reflex. No, my mother said he left. Maybe that is what she believed. Maybe it is what she needed you to believe. How? Silence. Then, execution style. The world narrowed. The windows. The desk, Dimitri's face. My father's photograph. Who? I asked, though some part of me already knew why Constantine had sent it. Dimitri's jaw tightened. My father gave the order. There are moments when pain is too large to feel at once. It arrives as information first. Clean. Cold. My father is dead. Dimitri's father killed him. I saved Dimitri's life. I slept under Dimitri's roof. I wore clothes Dimitri bought. I let his housekeeper bring me tea. I had stood beside him in a warehouse. While he used another man's daughter as leverage, I had begun to see the human in him. And beneath that human stood a family name built on bones, including one that belonged to me. Why, my voice sounded far away. The file says he skimmed money from a root. Small amounts over several months. My father made an example. The file says, yes, and you believe the file. I do not know yet, but you knew this and did not tell me. I found out yesterday. Yesterday. I laughed. It broke in the middle. You had time to buy my clothes, pay my rent, pack my life, threaten Sergei with his child, but not tell me your family killed my father. I wanted confirmation. No, you wanted control. That hit him. I saw it. Maybe, he said. I am sorry. Sorry does not raise the dead. No. Sorry does not give my mother back the years she spent working herself sick. No, sorry does not make me less stupid for entrusting you. You are not stupid. Do not comfort me. He closed his mouth. Good. I needed him silent. I needed to hear my own thoughts. They were ugly. They were loud. They sounded like my mother, crying in the bathroom, when she thought I was asleep. Like my grandmother, counting pills and bills at the kitchen table. Like a landlord saying, you people always have excuses. Like my own voice telling drunk customers, more coffee. Because rent did not care about dignity. Dimitri's family had not caused every pain in my life, but they had stood near the beginning of many. I want to leave, I said. His face changed. Where? My apartment. It is not safe. Then send guards. You said I had a door. For a moment, I thought he would refuse. I saw the old instinct rise. Close the doors. Remove variables. Control the field. Then he looked at the photograph of my father, and something in him lowered its weapon. Victor will take you. 2 cars, you stay no longer than 1 hour. Do not give me orders. A request, he said, quieter. For your safety. That was different. Not enough, but different. I went back to my old apartment with Victor and 3 men I did not know. The lock had been replaced. My landlord avoided my eyes in the hallway. Inside, the room looked smaller than I remembered. It smelled like dust and old heat. The bed was stripped. The bookshelf empty. My life had been removed, but the mark remained. A square on the wall where a picture had hung. A chip in the counter. The place on the floor where my grandmother's chair used to sit before I brought it to my own apartment, after she died. I thought coming back would make me feel like myself. Instead, I saw how little I had called a life. Not because I was poor. There is no shame in poor. The shame was how long I had accepted being treated like I did not matter. I stood in the middle of the room and cried without sound. Victor waited by the door, facing away. Respect in his own way. Then I saw the closet door. It was open. I had closed it before leaving for work the night everything changed. Victor. He turned instantly. I pointed. He moved first. Gun drawn. The closet was empty except for a shoebox on the floor. Mine. I had hidden old photographs in it. Letters. Small things from my grandmother. On top was a note that had not been there before. Ask Dimitri who really betrayed whom. Beneath it was a folded page. Yellowed with age. My father's handwriting. Or what I thought might be his. I had only seen his signature once. Elena, if you ever read this, it means your mother was right not to trust my life. I did bad things. I hurt people. But there are lines even bad men should not cross. They are moving girls through the docks. Young ones. Scared ones. Some do not speak English. I took money to get 3 out. I will take more if I have to. If they kill me for stealing, let the truth be that I stole for them, not for myself. The room tilted. Victor read it over my shoulder and cursed softly. We need to go. No, Miss Elena, no. I need to think. You can think in the car. The window cracked before I heard the shot. Victor grabbed me and pulled me down. Another shot hit the wall. Plaster burst near my head. Men shouted in the hallway. Victor pushed me behind the kitchen island, body between me and the window. Stay down. Gunfire echoed from outside. Not like the diner. Faster. Professional. My heart tried to escape my chest. I clutched my father's letters so hard it tore at the edge. Someone had known I would come back. Someone had wanted me to find the note. Or die with it. Victor got me out through the service stairs. We ran past trash bags and pipes, down into an alley where another SUV screeched to a stop. I did not remember climbing in. I only remembered Dimitri's voice on the phone. No longer controlled. Is she hit? Victor said. No, Dimitri said something in Russian that made even Victor go quiet. Back at the penthouse, Dimitri was waiting by the elevator. He reached for me, then stopped. He had learned that much. His hands curled at his sides. Are you hurt? No, Elena, I held up the letter. My father may not have stolen from your family. He may have been trying to save women from a trafficking route tied to your docks. Dimitri's face went pale beneath the composure. Not shocked. Worse, as if a door inside him had opened onto a room he had spent his life refusing to enter. Give it to me. No. I stepped back. This is not yours to bury. I was not going to bury it. Then what? Open the old files. He looked at the letter. Then at me. All of them. Even if it destroys your father's name. My father's name was never clean. His voice was low. But if my empire is still feeding from crimes he hid, then it deserves to bleed. That was the first time Dimitri chose truth over control. It did not heal me. It did not erase what his family had done. But it placed something new between us. Not forgiveness. Not love. Accountability. It is not a romantic word. It is a necessary one. People talk about healing like it is soft. Like candles and quiet music. Sometimes healing is a locked room full of ugly files. Sometimes it is a dangerous man, opening the cabinet he inherited and refusing to look away. Over the next 2 days, the penthouse became a war room. Dimitri's men brought boxes from storage, old ledgers, shipping records, photographs, names of companies that did not exist anymore, names of men who did. I read beside Dimitri because I insisted. He did not like it. He allowed it anyway. We learned that my father had been connected to missing payments around the same months. Several undocumented women disappeared from a port route. We learned that a supervisor named Pavel Orlov had reported Marcus Chen for skimming money. Pavel Orlov now sat on Dimitri's advisory council. We learned Konstantin had old copies of these files. Enough to wound Dimitri. Enough to control men still loyal to the old ways. Enough to make me question every room I stood in. Dimitri wanted to confront Pavel immediately. I told him no. You go in angry. He disappears or dies before he talks. Dimitri stared at me. You have another plan. Yes, you were a waitress 4 days ago. And you were a boy who fed stray dogs before someone told you kindness was weakness. People become more than the first thing the world names them. He went very still. Then he sat back. Tell me. So I did. Not because I knew Mafia strategy. I did not. I knew people. I knew liars from years of smiling at them. I knew that guilty men often feared shame more than punishment. I knew that men who serve power often resent being unseen by it. We would let Pavel think Dimitri suspected someone else. We would watch who he called. We would follow the fear. Dimitri listened. Victor listened. Even Irina listened from the doorway, pretending to bring coffee. That night, Dimitri walked me to my room. He had not touched me since the truth about my father. Not because he did not want to, because he was giving me the space he owed me. At the door, I said, I do not forgive your family. You should not. I do not know if I forgive you. I know, but I believe you want the truth. I do. Then prove it. He nodded. I will. I went inside and closed the door. For the first time since entering his world, I did not lock it right away. I stood with my hand on the knob and listened to his footsteps fade down the hall. I was still afraid. I was still angry. But anger can be a kind of fire. It can burn you down. Or it can light the room enough to see what must change. The next morning, the second package arrived. It was not an envelope. It was a phone. Old, cheap. already ringing when Victor brought it into the office, sealed inside a clear evidence bag. Dimitri's face went cold when he saw the number. Do not answer. I looked at him. It is for me. That is why you should not answer. No, that is why I should. He stepped closer. Alina, you said no deciding for me. His jaw tightened. The lesson cost him. I saw it. Then he nodded once to Victor, who connected the call through a secure speaker. Constantine's voice filled the room, smooth, almost amused. Miss Michen. I wondered whether Dimitri would let you pick up. He does not let me do anything, I said. Good. Then perhaps you will understand the difference between a man who cages you in silk and a man who offers you a door. You sent someone to shoot at me in my apartment. A warning. Not an execution. That is supposed to make me grateful. No, curious. A pause. Your father was curious too. That is what killed him. I felt Dimitri shift beside me, but I lifted a hand. Wait, I wanted Constantine to talk. You knew him. Marcus Chen was useful until he became sentimental. He tried to save women. He stole money from an organization that would have fed you better than your mother ever did. The cruelty was casual. That made it worse. Do not talk about my mother. Why? Because she worked herself into an early grave, after your father chose strangers over his own family. My throat tightened. He knew where to cut. He chose human beings. Big words from a waitress standing in a penthouse. I looked at the windows, at the city below, at my reflection standing beside Dimitri's. Yes, I said, a waitress. Remember that, because a waitress learns something men like you forget. And what is that? Everyone wants to be treated like they matter before they are useful. Constantine was silent for the first time. Then he laughed softly. You are more dangerous than I thought. No, I am more awake than you hoped. The line clicked dead. Victor traced the call. Useless, routed too many times. But that call changed something. Not just in Dimitri. In me. Constantine wanted me ashamed of where I came from. He wanted my poverty to feel like proof that my father's sacrifice had failed. But shame works only when part of you agrees with it, and I was tired of agreeing. My mother's hard life was not proof of weakness. My grandmother's unpaid bills were not proof of failure. My diner uniform was not proof that I mattered less than the men who wore tailored suits. The world had priced me low. That did not mean I was cheap. That night, I could not sleep again, but it was different. The first sleepless nights had been fear. This one was anger with purpose. I sat in Dimitri's office after everyone else had gone quiet, reading copies of old files until my eyes burned. There were numbers, dates, names, warehouses, route codes. All cold, all neat. That was what frightened me most. Human suffering had been turned into accounting. Women became initials. Payments became columns. Missing people became gaps in a ledger. Dimitri found me at 2 a.m. with a blanket over one arm. He did not tell me to sleep. He placed the blanket near me and sat across from me. What did you find? A pattern. He leaned forward. Show me. I pointed to 3 shipments marked as damaged cargo. Same port supervisor. Same month. Same route. These losses matched the weeks my father supposedly stole money. But look at the side notes. Medical delay. Transfer delay. Customs delay. Those do not sound like missing cash. They sound like people being moved. Dimitri studied the pages. His expression turned deadly quiet. Pavel signed 2 of these. And the third. Mikhail. Who is Mikhail? He did not answer immediately. That was how I knew. Dimitri, Mikhail Antonov. My father's closest friend. He was there when I was born. He sits on my council. He taught me how to shoot. The room seemed to shrink. Is he still close to you? Yes, the word was almost a wound. There it was. The personal betrayal I had feared without knowing its name. Not Pavel, the old advisor with paper hands and convenient death. Someone closer. Someone who had touched Dimitri's childhood. Someone who could still walk into this penthouse with a smile. Does he know we are looking? I asked. Dimitri reached for his phone, then stopped. His old instinct would have been to call men, seal doors, send guns. Instead, he looked at me. What do you think? That question changed the air between us, not because I had the perfect answer, because he asked. I think if you move too fast, he will know. If he is involved, he has survived this long by knowing when powerful men are about to turn. Let him feel safe. Dimitri's jaw worked. He held me the day my father broke my wrist. I went still. What? I was 13. Training accident, he said. Mikhail took me to a doctor who did not ask questions. Bought me ice cream after. His mouth twisted. I thought that was kindness. Maybe it was. He looked at me sharply. People can be kind once and still guilty later, I said. That is the worst part. For the first time, Dimitri looked truly young. Not soft, not weak. young in the way a man becomes when an old memory stops being safe. If Mikhail knew about the root, if he helped frame your father, then he has sat at my table for years, while I paid for the damage he helped create. Then we find out. And if it is true. I held his gaze. Then you choose truth again. He nodded. Slow. Heavy. Truth again. The next day, Dmitri invited Mikhail to breakfast. I watched from the library, through the half-open door. Mikhail Antonov was in his early 60s, silver-haired, broad, with the easy warmth of a man used to being trusted. He hugged Dmitri like family. He kissed Irina's cheek. He brought pastries from beach and asked after Svetlana's blood pressure. He looked like someone safe. That was why my stomach turned. Dangerous men with hard eyes are simple. Dangerous men who remember your mother's tea preference are harder. Dmitri played his part well. Too well. He laughed once. He poured coffee. He asked about old business. I watched Mikhail's hands. Always hands. They remained calm until Dmitri mentioned Babel. Then one finger tapped the table twice. Small. Almost nothing. A tell. Later. Victor followed Mikhail. By evening, we knew he had gone to a bathhouse in Brooklyn. Entered through the front. Left through the back. And passed something to a man connected to Constantine. A drive, maybe records. Maybe warnings. Dmitri stood in the office with that report in his hand and said nothing for almost a minute. I did not comfort him. Some pain deserves witnesses, not bandages. Finally, he said, I would have trusted him with my life. I know I did trust him with my life. I know. My father used to say, betrayal only hurts when you are foolish enough to love. Your father was wrong. He turned toward me. Was he? Yes. Betrayal hurts because trust mattered. That does not make trust foolish. It makes the betrayal guilty. His eyes closed for a second. When he opened them, the boss was back. But not only the boss. Something steadier. Then we make him speak. Without killing him. His mouth tightened. You ask difficult things. No, I ask useful things. Dead men cannot answer questions. Mikhail was brought in that night. Not to the warehouse. But to Dmitri's own dining room. That was my suggestion. Dmitri hated it. I insisted. He hurt you as family. Make him answer at a family table. Mikhail entered with 2 guards behind him, and smiled. Like this was all a misunderstanding. Dima, he said, using the childhood name. What drama is this? Dmitri sat at the head of the table. I sat beside him. Mikhail's smile faded when he saw me. The waitress. He said Elena Chen. I corrected. Marcus Chen's daughter. He recovered quickly, but not quickly enough. A sad story. Yes, I said, tell it. Mikhail looked at Dmitri. You allow this. Dmitri's voice was quiet. I require it. That was when Mikhail knew the boy he had known was not the man in front of him. We showed him the files, the signatures, the root codes, Lydia's name, Pavel's accounts. Mikhail denied everything for 12 minutes. Then Dmitri placed one photograph on the table. It showed Mikhail outside a dock office in 2009 with Constantine beside him. Mikhail stopped speaking. Dmitri did not raise his voice. That made him more frightening. Did you frame Marcus Chen? Mikhail leaned back slowly. Your father ordered many things. Did you frame him? Marcus was a thief. Did you frame him? Mikhail's face hardened. The uncle disappeared. The survivor remained. He became sentimental. Sentiment spreads. One man saves 3 girls. Then another questions why the girls are there. Then another refuses a shipment. Your father understood rot must be cut early. The room went cold. Those girls were people, I said. He looked at me like I had interrupted business with childish poetry. People are always people to someone. That is not how empires run. Dmitri's hand curled against the table. I touched his wrist once. Wait, not mercy. Strategy. My father died because he remembered they were people, I said. And that makes him better than you. Mikhail laughed. Your father collected debts from old women and broke a man's jaw. Over $200. I know, that stopped him. I leaned forward. I know my father did bad things. I do not need him clean to know you were wrong. Mikhail looked at Dmitri then. This is what she will do to you. Make you ashamed of what keeps men alive. Dmitri stood, slowly. No. She reminds me shame is sometimes proof there is still something alive to save. Mikhail's eyes flickered. Your father would spit on you. My father is dead. Dmitri's voice did not move. And I am done obeying ghosts. Mikhail was not killed. That was the hardest choice Dmitri made that week. He wanted blood. I knew it. Victor knew it. Mikhail knew it too. Which was why only living frightened him more. Dmitri stripped his accounts. His access. His protection. He handed enough evidence to someone who could keep Mikhail contained without making him a martyr. Then he sent him away under guard. to give a recorded statement about the old route. Konstantin, Pavel and Marcus Chen. After they took him, Dmitri went to the kitchen. I found him there 15 minutes later, standing over the sink, both hands braced on the counter. The coffee machine sat beside him, silent and innocent. "Do not," he said without looking up. "Do not what? Tell me I did the right thing." I stopped beside him. "I was not going to." "Good. The right thing can still feel terrible." His shoulders lowered slightly. "Yes, you lost someone. He betrayed me. Both can be true." He turned his head then. His eyes were bright. Not with tears. Not exactly, but with the effort of holding back a lifetime of them. "How do you do that? What make room for more than one truth?" I thought about my father, my mother, my grandmother, Dmitri, myself. Because one truth was never enough to explain my life. He breathed out. I reached for the coffee machine. "Come on, what are you doing?" "Teaching you again. Now, especially now." So I made him coffee. Bad diner coffee. Honest coffee. He drank it without complaint this time. Then he set the mug down, leaned toward me slowly, giving me time to move away, and rested his forehead against mine. We did not kiss. Not then. We just stood there in the blue-dark kitchen, surrounded by grief, coffee, and the strange mercy of being seen without being fixed. The meeting with Konstantin was set for Friday night in a private room, above an old restaurant in Little Italy. The kind of place, with red leather booths downstairs, and bulletproof glass upstairs hidden behind velvet curtains. Dmitri called it a sit-down. Victor called it a trap. I called it exactly what it was. A man trying to decide how much blood he could spill before the city noticed. Dmitri did not want me anywhere near it, for once, I agreed. I was not foolish enough to mistake courage for invincibility. Courage had pulled him under a table. Courage had made me ask questions in a warehouse. Courage did not mean walking into a room full of armed men to prove a point. So I stayed at the penthouse with Irina and extra guards. The building was locked down, cameras on every floor, elevator codes changed. Victor personally checked the bedroom doors before leaving, with Dmitri. "If anything feels wrong," he told me, "you go to the master bedroom. Reinforced door. Panic button under the nightstand. Firearm in the drawer. Do you know how to use one?" "No." He looked unhappy. "Then do not touch it unless the door is opening, and you have no other choice. Do not wave it. Do not threaten. If you pick it up, you mean to survive." I swallowed. "That is a terrible lesson." "Yes," he said. "But some lessons are terrible because the world failed first." That stayed with me. Some lessons are terrible because the world failed first. After they left, the penthouse felt too large. Irina made soup because she believed food could hold a person together. I tried to eat. My spoon shook. "He will come back," she said. "You cannot know that." "No, but I know him. He has something to come back to now." I looked at her. "Do not put that on me. I am not. Love is not a leash. Child, it is a window. It reminds a person there is air outside the room they have lived in too long." I wanted to reject that because it sounded too gentle for a night like this. But Irina had worked in Dmitri's house for years. She had seen the boy, the man, the weapon, the boss if she still believed in windows. Maybe she had earned the right. Around 11, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. The message was short. "Stay away from the windows. Lock yourself in my bedroom. Open for no one but Victor." "Dmitri," I stood so fast the bowl tipped. Soup spilling over the table. Irina saw my face and did not ask questions. She moved toward the hall phone. Then the lights went out. Not all at once. The living room first. Then the kitchen. Then the hallway. Emergency lights glowed red near the floor. For 1 second, nobody moved. Then somewhere outside the apartment door, a sound, soft, mechanical, the private elevator arriving. Irina whispered, "Go, come with me. I will slow you." "Irina, go." There was command in her voice. Old command. The kind used by women who had survived powerful men. By learning when to stand and when to move, I ran. The hallway to Demetrius' room seemed longer than before. My socks slipped on the floor. Behind me, I heard the elevator doors open. Voices. Male. Low, not Russian, I recognized from Dimitri's men. Not Victor. I entered the bedroom, locked the door, and pushed a heavy chair beneath the handle, though. Victor had said the door was reinforced. I found the panic button under the nightstand and pressed it. Nothing happened that I could see. Maybe that was the point. My breathing came too fast. Slow down. Elena, slow down. I opened the drawer. The gun lay inside, black and heavy looking. Beside it was a small flashlight and a spare phone. I took the phone first. No signal. Jammer, I thought. Though I did not know how I knew. Maybe from movies. Maybe from fear making me smarter. The voices came closer, doors opening, furniture moving. A man laughed. She's here somewhere. Volov's little conscience. My hands went cold. Little conscience. Not mistress, not pet. Constantine understood more than I wanted him to. He understood that Dimitri's greatest weakness was not desire. So it was the part of him that had started wanting to become better. The doorknob moved. Once, twice. Then a polite knock. Miss Chen. The voice was smooth. Older. Almost kind. My name's Konstantin Fedorov. I apologize for the intrusion. I stared at the door. My mouth went dry. You should apologize by leaving. He left softly. You have spirit. I see why he is attached. I am not attached to him. No, then open the door. Walk out. I will let you leave this city with money, papers, protection. You can be free of him. Free of the blood. Free of the name that killed your father. My heart slammed against my ribs. He knew where to press. Of course he did. And all I have to do is trust the man who sent shooters to a diner. I sent professionals to remove Dimitri. You made yourself part of the event. That is a clean way to describe attempted murder. The world is cleaner when one uses accurate terms. Fine. Here is an accurate term. Coward. Silence. Then, closer to the door, his voice changed. Careful. My knees shook. I sat on the edge of the bed, because standing felt impossible. You are using me because you cannot beat him directly. I am using you because he made the mistake of caring. Men like Dimitri should know better. His father did. His father was wrong about many things. His father built an empire. His father built a graveyard and called it legacy. Another silence. Then Constantine said, "Perhaps you are not a weakness. Perhaps you are an infection." The lock clicked. They were working on it. I looked at the gun. Victor's words came back. Do not touch it unless the door is opening and you have no other choice. My hand reached for it. It was heavier than I expected. Cold, real. I hated it. I hated that a person could hold death in one hand. I hated that the world had brought me to a room where this was the next right step. My grandmother had told me courage was not the absence of fear. Dimitri had said the same in different words. But neither of them had told me fear could be so loud it became voice in your skull. Don't you'll miss. They'll be angry. They'll hurt you. You are just a waitress. No, I was not just anything. I was Elena Chen, granddaughter of Mei Lin, who cleaned houses with swollen hands and still taught me to stand straight. Daughter of a tired woman who protected me from the truth because she thought childhood deserved at least one locked door. Daughter of Marcus Chen, who may have done bad things, but still tried to save people when it mattered. I was afraid, but I was not empty. The lock gave another click. The handle moved. I aimed low through the door, away from where a heart or face would be, because even then I did not want to kill if I did not have to. I closed my eyes for half a second, opened them, and fired. The sound shattered the room. My wrists screamed from the recoil. Outside, a man cried out. She hit me. She hit my leg. Chaos, swearing. Constantine shouted. Back. I fired again. Lower, not at anyone I could see. At the door. At the threat. At the idea that I would be taken quietly. More footsteps. A crash. Someone yelled from the hallway. Not Constantine. A woman. Irina. Kitchen entrance. Then gunfire erupted farther away. I crawled behind the bed, still holding the gun with both hands. I did not feel brave. I felt sick. I felt like my bones had turned to water. Minutes stretched. The red emergency lights made the walls pulse like a warning. Then another sound cut through. The main door breaking open. Men shouting. A voice I knew. Victor. Clear left. More shots. Short. Controlled. Then silence. Not peaceful silence. The silence after a storm decides whether to return. Elena Dimitri's voice. Raw. Terrified. I had never heard him sound like that. Elena, answer me. I tried, but my mouth did not work. My finger was still near the trigger. Elena, softer now. Closer to the door. It is me. Victor is with me. Constantine is gone. Open the door when you can. No rush. Just let me hear you. No rush. He said no rush while sounding like the world was ending. That was what made me move. I set the gun on the floor and kicked it away from my hand. Then I crawled to the door, moved the chair, and opened it. Dimitri stood there, covered in blood that was not all his. His hair was loose. His shirt was torn. A cut ran along his cheek. But his eyes were worse. They looked like he had died in every possible way before seeing me alive. He reached for me, stopped, and whispered, "Can I?" That broke me. Not the gun, not Constantine. That, the fact that he asked. I stepped into him. He wrapped around me, like a man holding on to the only solid thing left in the world. His arms shook. Mine did too. They did not take you. he said into my hair. No, are you hurt? No, did they touch you? No, Irina. He looked over my head. Victor answered. Alive, bruised, furious. Dmitri let out a breath that sounded almost like a sob. I pulled back enough to look at him. Constantine. His face changed. The boss returned. The man who had survived rooms I could not imagine. Gone. Wounded. Not dead, so this is not over. No, my body felt suddenly too heavy. I shot someone. You saved yourself. I shot someone. Yes, he did not soften the truth. I needed that. Will he live? Yes. Leg wound. I nodded, then shook my head, then laughed once in a way that was too close to crying. Victor told me not to touch the gun, unless I meant to survive. Dmitri looked toward Victor. Victor shrugged. She listened. Under other circumstances, it might have been funny. Under those, it was a thread keeping me from falling apart. Dmitri took off his coat and wrapped it around my shoulders. I failed you, he said. My security had a hole. Pavel opened it. Constantine used it. Pavel, gone. His body was found near the service entrance. Constantine removes tools when they become evidence. The old advisor, the man who had accused my father, dead before he could speak. Truth. Again, buried by violence. I stepped away from Dmitri. No, Elena, no. I cannot do this if every answer dies before we reach it. I cannot live inside a war where people become files. Leverage bodies. Silence. I know. Do you? My voice rose. Because this is your normal. This is the air you breathe. Men break into your home and you call it a breach. A man dies and you call him a tool. I shot through a door tonight. I may dream about that sound for the rest of my life. You might. Do not agree like that. Would you rather I lie? I hated him then. I loved him then. I did not know the difference yet. And that was the cruelest part. I am scared all the time, I said, since the diner. Since you. Since me, I am scared of Constantine. I am scared of your enemies. I am scared of how safe I felt when you held me after I opened that door. His face opened, and for a second I saw the wound beneath the armor. So am I. You are scared. Every minute. Not of death. I made peace with that too young. I am scared that I brought you into a world that will take the softness out of you. I am scared you will stay because danger confused itself with love. I am scared you will leave and I will deserve it. His voice dropped. I am scared because I want you beside me. And wanting has made better men than me selfish. I covered my face with my hands. He did not touch me. That was the second time he chose restraint, when possession would have been easier. I need time, I said. Take it. Not here, pain flashed through his eyes. Where your mother's house? I did not know why I said it until I did. Svetlana Volova, the woman Irina had mentioned with careful respect. The mother who had watched a boy become a weapon. If I was going to decide whether Dmitri was more than the name he carried, I needed to see where the name had begun to crack. He nodded. In the morning. No guards in the room with me. Outside. Fine. And Elena. If you decide to go, I will help you go. I searched his face for the lie. I did not find one, even if it hurts you. Especially then. I slept that night in a guest room at the far end of the penthouse, because I could not bear to be alone. In Dmitri's room after the attack, I did not really sleep. I drifted in and out, hearing the gunshot again, hearing Constantine say infection, hearing Dmitri say, "Can I?" before touching me. Near dawn, I found a folded note slipped under my door. Dmitri's handwriting was sharp and controlled. I am sorry for every door my world has closed around you. I am trying to learn how to open them. That was all. No demand, no poetry, no claim. I held the note until the paper warmed in my hand. Healing does not happen when someone says the right thing once. But sometimes one right thing becomes a step. And once in step means the ground still exists. Brighton Beach felt like another country and another century. Though it was only a drive across the city, the air smelled of ocean, bread, tobacco, and grilled meat. Storefront signs were written in Cyrillic. Old women in wool coats carried shopping bags and stared at Dmitri with a mixture of affection and warning. Men nodded as he passed, not just out of fear. Some with gratitude, some with history. That confused me. I had seen the penthouse, the warehouse, the blood. I had not seen the old man outside a bakery clasp Dmitri's hand and say, "My rent, thank you." I had not seen Dmitri bend to greet a little girl who handed him a drawing of a black dog because her mother said he paid for the shelter surgery. I had not seen the community under the empire, the human beings tangled in the shadow of crime. Protection, debt, loyalty, survival. That did not make the darkness acceptable. It made it harder to simplify. Svetlana Volova lived in a modest brownstone 2 blocks from the water. No marble lobby, No armed guards inside, just lace curtains, framed icons, family photographs, and the smell of tea. She opened the door before Dmitri could knock. She was small, elegant with silver hair and the same gray eyes as her son, though hers held more weather. She looked at me for a long moment, then pulled me into a hug. I stiffened. She held on anyway, not tightly, just fully, like she had decided I was a person before asking what role I played. "Elena," she said. Finally, Dmitri made a sound behind me. "Mama, hush. You look terrible. Go make tea." "This is my mother's way of saying hello," he muttered. "It is my way of saying you are bleeding on my rug." He looked down as if surprised by the small cut on his hand reopening. For the first time since I had met him, he looked like somebody's son, not a boss, not a myth. A son being scolded for making a mess. It did something strange to my heart. Svetlana led me into the living room while Dmitri disappeared into the kitchen, with the obedience of a man who could command killers, but not his mother. "Sit," she said. I sat. She poured tea from a pot already waiting. "He told me about the diner, the attack. Konstantin, your father." My fingers tightened around the cup. "Did he tell you his father ordered my father killed?" "Yes, and what do you say to that?" Her eyes filled with sadness, but she did not look away. "I say Alexander left many widows and orphans behind him. Some knew his name, some did not. I say I am sorry in a way that cannot repair anything. I say you owe my son nothing because of pain his father caused." That was the first answer that did not make me feel manipulated. "Dmitri says he is not his father. He is not. But he inherited his father's empire. Yes, and he has done terrible things. Yes, you do not defend him. I love him. That is not the same as pretending." She set down her cup. "When Dmitri was born, I begged Alexander to leave this life. We had money. We could have gone to Canada, France, anywhere." Alexander laughed. He said men like him do not retire. He said the empire was not a business. It was blood, legacy, duty, curse. All the grand words men use when they want children to carry their sins. She reached for a photograph on the table. Dmitri at maybe 8 years old, serious, dark-haired, holding a book against his chest. He wanted to be a lawyer once. I looked up. Dmitri, yes, he loved rules. Not because he obeyed them, because he wanted to understand why some people were protected by them and others were crushed beneath them. Her smile trembled. Alexander beat that dream out of him. Not all at once. Men like Alexander are patient with damage. In the kitchen, something clattered. Dmitri cursed softly in Russian. Svetlana's face softened, but not everything died. When he was 11, he found a dog in the alley with a broken leg. Alexander said, "Leave it. Weak things die." Dmitri carried it home anyway. Hid it in the laundry room for 3 days. I found him sleeping beside it on the floor. What happened to the dog? Dmitri paid a veterinarian with money he stole from his father's desk. Despite everything, I smiled, brave. "Stupid," Dmitri said from the doorway, carrying a tray. "The dog bit me, because you fed him ham," Svetlana said. "Dogs need proper food." He set the tray down, eyes flicking to me. There was vulnerability in that glance. A question. Did this change anything? I did not know. We drank tea. Svetlana told me stories. Not excuses. Stories. Dmitri as a boy hiding books under his mattress. Dmitri learning 5 languages because his father believed words were weapons. Dmitri coming home at 17 with blood on his shirt and eyes too old, refusing to tell his mother what had happened. Dmitri at 21 quietly paying medical bills for families harmed by men in his father's circle. He has always tried to repair with one hand what the other hand was trained to break. Svetlana said. Dmitri stood by the window, face turned away. "Mama, no, she needs truth. Not your pride. I liked her then. Not because she made Dmitri look innocent. She did not. I liked her because she understood love without worship. That afternoon, she took me upstairs to Dmitri's old room. It had been preserved more than decorated. A narrow bed, shelves of books, a small desk, a box of photographs. In the back of the closet, behind old coats, was a wall where faint scratches marked height over years. Dmitri, age 9. Dmitri, age 10. Dmitri, age 11. Then nothing until 15. "Why did it stop?" I asked. Svetlana touched the wall. Alexander said measuring was sentimental. Such a small cruelty. Such a clear one. I thought of my grandmother, marking my height on the kitchen doorframe with pencil, cheering every inch like I had climbed a mountain. Poverty had taken many things from me. But not that. Not the right to be celebrated for growing. Dmitri had lived in rooms full of money and been denied pencil marks. I found myself grieving for the boy I had never known. Not enough to erase the man's violence, but enough to understand that healing him would not be simple, and it was not my job to heal him. That mattered. I said it out loud later. When Dmitri walked me along the boardwalk as the sun lowered over the water, I cannot save you. He looked at me. I know. No. I need you to really know. I can love people and still not be responsible for fixing what broke them. I spent years trying to be easy. Easy for my mother because she was tired. Easy for my grandmother because she was old. Easy for customers because tips paid bills. I will not become easy for you just because your pain is real. He stopped walking. Wind moved through his dark hair for a second. The ocean behind him made him look less like a king and more like a man at the edge of something vast. Good, he said. Good, yes. If you stay. I do not want you smaller. I want to become someone who can stand beside you without needing you to shrink. My throat tightened. That is a beautiful sentence. I am trying to make it a true one. That was Dmitri at his best. I would learn. Not when he promised the moon. Men with money can promise anything. He was at his best when he admitted the work. Before we left Brighton Beach, Svetlana took me into the kitchen alone. She packed a tin of honey cakes with slow, careful hands. He will try, she said. But trying is not the same as changing. I watched her close the lid. You are warning me against your own son. I am warning you for yourself. A woman must never mistake being needed for being respected. Men in my world need many things. Loyalty, silence, warmth, forgiveness. They call all of it love when it is convenient. Her eyes lifted to mine. Do not let him need you more than he honors you. That sentence stayed with me longer than any blessing could have. Did Alexander honor you? I asked. She looked toward the window, where Dmitri stood near the car, with Victor. Sometimes. Not enough. She handed me the tin. Do not build a life on sometimes. I carried those words back to Manhattan, like a kind of weapon. We returned to the penthouse after dark. The damage from the attack had already been repaired in the main rooms. Too quickly. Like violence could be painted over before memory settled. I stood outside the master bedroom door and could not go in. Dmitri noticed. We can move rooms. No, I forced myself to touch the door. New wood, no bullet holes. No proof. This is what scares me. In my world, damage stays. Cracks in walls. Stains. Bills. In your world, damage disappears by morning. It does not disappear, he said. It gets hidden. Then stop hiding it from me. The next day, he did. He showed me the legal businesses. The illegal ones. The gray spaces in between. The workers who depended on his construction contracts. The restaurants that paid for protection, because the police had failed them long before Dmitri's men arrived. The gambling rooms. The cash routes. The favors. The debts. He did not dress it up as noble. He did not say crime was community service. He said, this is what exists. Some of it protects people. Some of it harms them. I have told myself the balance matters. Maybe I have used the balance as an excuse, I said. Then change the balance. He laughed once, without humor. It is not that simple. I did not say simple. I said change it. Over the following week, that became the center of us. Not kisses. Not declarations. Work, truth. Boundaries. If he wanted me in his life, there would be rules. No lying for my safety. No moving me like property. No using innocent family members as threats. No decisions about my life without my voice in the room. He agreed to some immediately. Others made his jaw tighten. Those were the ones that mattered most. I also made rules for myself. I would not romanticize fear. I would not confuse protection with respect. I would not let expensive clothes or soft beds make me forget the diner, my grandmother, my father's letter, or the women he may have died trying to save. If I stayed, I would stay awake. Constantine remained missing. That made every quiet hour sharp. Dmitri's men tracked money, calls, old allies. Pavel's records led to an offshore account, and 3 names tied to the old port route. 2 were dead. 1 was alive in New Jersey under another name. A woman named Lydia Sokolov, once a bookkeeper for Alexander Vulov, now running a small laundromat and raising 2 grandchildren. Dmitri wanted to send men. I said we should go ourselves. He said no. I said, you want truth from people your father terrified. Try arriving as a person, not an army. So we went with only Victor, who looked deeply unhappy about the arrangement. Lydia was in her 60s, with dyed red hair and hands cracked from detergent. When she saw Dmitri, she nearly dropped a basket of towels. I have nothing, she said. I paid. I left. I have nothing. Dmitri took a step back. I am not here to collect. She laughed in his face, a harsh, frightened sound. Your father said same thing once. I moved forward before Dmitri could speak. My name is Elena Chen. Marcus Chen was my father. Lydia's face changed. She sat down slowly behind the counter. Marcus had a little girl. Yes, he showed me picture once. Missing front tooth. I did not remember the picture. I felt the loss of it anyway. Lydia told us the truth in pieces. Marcus had discovered Pavel, and others were using a shipping route to move undocumented women through debts they could never repay. Some were forced into clubs. Some disappeared. Marcus stole from collections to get 3 women out. Lydia helped alter ledgers. Pavel found out. He framed Marcus as a thief. Alexander ordered him killed. Your father was not saint, Lydia told me. He hurt men, collected money, did ugly things, but at end, he tried to stop uglier thing. That mattered. Not because it made him pure, because it made him human. Humans are rarely one thing. That is the lesson people resist, because one thing is easier. Saint, monster, victim, criminal, savior, coward. My father had been guilty and brave. Dmitri was violent and capable of tenderness. I was afraid and still moving. The world was full of people who could not be reduced without lying. Lydia gave us names. One was connected to Constantine. That was his leverage, not just territory. He had inherited part of the old trafficking network and wanted Dmitri's ports to reopen what Dmitri had unknowingly shut down. Years earlier, when he reorganized operations after his father died, the attack at the diner had been more than a power move. It was punishment. Dmitri had blocked money he did not fully understand. Constantine wanted the old darkness back. On the drive home, Dmitri was silent. His hands rested on his knees, open, still. You did not know. I said, no. But now you do. Yes. What will you do? He turned to me. Burn that root to ash. There was the monster again. But this time, I understood something. Fire can destroy. Fire can also cauterize a wound. Not just burn, I said. Expose. Protect the women still living. Pay restitution quietly. Build something legal in the space you close. Make it harder for the next Constantine to grow there. Dmitri stared. You think like a reformer? No. I think like someone who knows what happens when powerful men make messes and poor people clean them. Victor made a small sound from the front seat that might have been approval. Dmitri took my hand, slowly, giving me time to pull away. I did not. Then help me, he said. Not as decoration. Not as conscience. As partner in this. The word partner settled between us, heavier than any claim he had made before. I do not know your world. You know people. You know dignity. I have men who know guns. I have too few who know what harm looks like after the shooting stops. That was the educational truth, hidden inside our dangerous story. Violence is not only the bullet, it is the rent unpaid after a death. The child growing up with lies, because truth is too expensive. The woman in a diner smiling, because disrespect pays better than pride. The community forced to choose between police, who ignore them, and criminals who protect them for a price. If Dmitri wanted to change anything, he had to learn that harm had an afterlife. And if I wanted to stay, I had to make sure love did not blind me to it. That night, in the penthouse, Dmitri gave me a small box. I went cold. Do not a ring, he said quickly, almost nervous. That made me smile despite myself. Inside was a gold necklace with a small key pendant. Simple, beautiful. It opens the elevator. This apartment, the Hamptons house, the private office downstairs, and 2 safe deposit boxes. Dmitri, listen first. He stood across from me, not touching. If you stay, it is not because I lock the door. If you go, this key still works. Money, documents, protection, no questions, no debt. I want you to have a way out that does not depend on my permission. My eyes burned. That is the first gift you have given me that does not feel like a cage. He looked down. I am learning. I lifted the necklace from the box. I am not ready to say forever. I am not asking tonight. I am not ready to forgive everything. I may spend my life earning pieces of it. I am still scared. So am I. I let him fasten the necklace around my neck. His fingers brushed my skin. And for once, the touch did not feel like possession. It felt like a question. I turned to face him. I want to kiss you, I said. His breath changed. Are you sure? No, I laughed softly. But I am sure I want the choice to be mine. Then it is. I kissed him. Not because danger had trapped us. Not because he had saved me. Not because money, fear, or gratitude had confused my heart. I kissed him because I had seen the boy, the boss, the blood, the effort, the truth, the restraint, and the possibility. I kissed him because for the first time in my life, I wanted something that was not safe, and I trusted myself enough to want it, without disappearing inside it. He did not grab. He did not claim. He held my face like something precious and breakable and strong all at once. When we parted, his forehead rested against mine. "I love you," he whispered. The words came carefully, like he knew they were not payment, not proof, not a chain, just truth offered open-handed. I closed my eyes. I am not ready to say it back. I know, but I am close. He smiled then. A small, real smile. I can live on close. Outside, the city glittered. Somewhere. Constantine was still moving. Somewhere. Old crimes waited to be uncovered. Somewhere. Women who had survived men like Alexander and Constantine were still trying to build lives from what was left. Our story was not suddenly clean because two people kissed in a penthouse. Love does not erase systems. Love does not resurrect fathers. Love does not turn a criminal empire into a charity because a woman with a key asks nicely. But love can make a powerful man listen. It can make a wounded woman stand taller. It can become a reason to choose accountability over comfort. That night, for the first time, I slept without a chair against the door. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee. Not good coffee, not expensive coffee. Burnt, bitter, diner coffee. I followed the smell to the kitchen and found Dmitri standing there with 2 mugs, looking guilty. "You made this?" I asked. I attempted. I took a sip and nearly coughed. "This is awful. It tastes like punishment. It tastes like you boiled regret." His mouth curved, but I looked at the mug. At him, at the man who had once bought buildings to solve problems, deniasts, and was now ruining coffee, because he wanted to understand a piece of my old life. "But thank you." He leaned against the counter. "I want to see the diner repaired." "Why?" "Because it mattered to both of us." I shook my head. "It mattered to you, because of your father. It mattered to me because I had nowhere else to go." "Then let it become something else." "Like what?" "Yours." I stared at him, Dmitri. "Not as a gift that traps you. As a choice. A place for people who work late. Real wages. Good locks. No landlord breathing down anyone's neck. Jerry can run the kitchen if he wants." I should have rejected it immediately. Pride rose first. Then memory. Women like me standing behind counters. Men snapping fingers. Workers going home after midnight with cash in their pockets and no safe ride. What if the place could be different? What if the scene of terror became a place where people were treated with dignity? "I will think about it," I said. "That is not no." "Do not look so pleased." "I am trying not to." He failed, quietly and somehow. That small, terrible cup of coffee became one of the first memories I did not want to give back. The final confrontation did not happen in a warehouse, though Dmitri wanted it to. Men like him trusted concrete floors and locked doors. I told him Constantine would expect that. Constantine liked theater. He liked pressure. He liked making people doubt what they knew, so we gave him an audience. The Italian families still wanted their sit-down. The Russians wanted stability. The Ukrainians were divided. The old men wanted profit. The younger ones wanted territory. Nobody wanted federal attention. That was the lever, not revenge. Consequence. Dmitri arranged the meeting in the private room above the restaurant, the same place Constantine had turned into a trap before. This time, every entrance was watched by men loyal to Victor, not the old council. Every phone was collected except one. Mine, not because I was special, because nobody in that room would suspect the waitress of holding the blade. I wore a black dress with long sleeves and the key necklace under the collar. My hands were cold. Dmitri noticed in the car. "You do not have to do this." "Yes, I do." "No, you choose to. There is a difference." I looked at him. "You remembered." "I remember everything you teach me. That was why I went. Not to prove bravery. Not to become a queen in some cheap fantasy of power. I went because the truth about my father. Lydia's testimony. Mikhaila's recorded statement. The port records. And Constantine's current roots had to enter the room before bullets did. Men who profit from darkness fear exposure more than death. Death can make them legends. Exposure makes them liabilities. Constantine arrived late. Of course. He wore a dark suit and a pleasant expression, his arm in a sling from the wound he had taken during his escape. He smiled when he saw me seated beside Dmitri. "Miss Chen, still alive. How disappointing." Dmitri's hand moved under the table. I touched his wrist once. "Wait." He did. Constantine saw it and laughed. "Remarkable. She has trained you." I leaned forward. "No, he is learning. Training is what men like you do to people when you need obedience. Learning is what people do when they are not afraid of truth." The room went quiet. A few men smiled into their drinks. Constantine's eyes cooled. "Careful, girl." "Woman," I said. "My name is Elena Chen, and you are going to use it if you speak to me." That was not just pride. It was the lesson at the center of everything. Respect begins with naming people correctly. Not girl, not pet, not leverage, not weakness. Person. Constantine looked at Dmitri. You let her speak for you, Dmitri said. She speaks for herself. That sentence changed the temperature in the room. I saw it. Men who feared Dmitri did not know what to do with his restraint. Men who respected power began to wonder if this was a new kind. I placed copies of the records on the table. Not all, enough. Port schedules, bank transfers, shell companies. Lydia's sworn video statement saved to 3 locations. Mikhail's confession, edited only to protect living victims. Names of missing women tied to Constantine's network. Names of men in the room who had unknowingly moved freight connected to those routes. That part mattered. Give powerful men a moral reason, and some will ignore it. Give them a legal and financial reason, and they lean forward. This is a lie, Constantine said. No, Dmitri said. It is an inheritance. My father's, partly. Yours. Currently. Mine if I choose silence. He looked around the table. I do not choose silence. An older Italian boss named Salvatore Russo tapped the documents with one finger. You bring this to us instead of handling it privately. Why? Dimitri's jaw flexed. This was the risk. In his world, bringing shame into a room could be seen as weakness, he said, because private handling is how rot survives. Every man here has daughters, nieces, sisters, mothers, wives, women under his roof he claims to protect. If we make money from women being moved through our ports like cargo, then our protection is theater. Nobody spoke. Dmitri continued. There will be no trafficking through my territory, no forced prostitution, no debt chains on women who came to this country, with no language and no shield. Any man tied to that trade loses access to my roots, my businesses, my protection, and my patience. Salvatore leaned back. And if that costs you, then it costs me. Constantine laughed. Beautiful speech. Did she write it? Parts, Dmitri said. She is better with truth than I am. That almost broke the tension, because it was so unexpected. Then Constantine made his mistake. He looked at me and said, Your father died crying. Did you know that? The room blurred. Dmitri went still beside me. Victor shifted near the wall. I felt the old pain rise, sharp and hot. Constantine wanted me emotional. He wanted Dmitri violent. He wanted the room to collapse into the old language of men. Threat, rage, blood. I breathed once, twice. Maybe he did, I said. My voice shook, but it held. Maybe he was afraid. Most people are afraid when they die. That does not make the good thing he tried to do less good. Fear does not cancel courage. I looked around the room, not just at Constantine. And that is something many men here should understand. You have built entire lives around making people afraid, but fear is not respect. Fear is only a debt that eventually comes due. Salvatore's eyes narrowed, but he did not interrupt. Constantine's smile faded. You think these men care about your little moral lesson? No, I said. I think they care about survival. So here is the practical lesson. The evidence is already with attorneys. If I do not leave this building, it goes public. If Dmitri does not leave this building, it goes public. If any woman tied to these routes disappears after tonight, it goes public. If Constantine continues operating, everyone connected to him becomes exposed. I let the silence stretch. That is not morality. That is insurance. Dmitri's mouth twitched. Pride, maybe. Constantine stood. You believe papers protect you? No, I said. People do. The door opened. Lydia entered with 2 women behind her, both older now. Both survivors from the old route my father had helped expose. One had become a nurse. The other owned a cleaning company in Queens. They had agreed to speak, only if the room was controlled. Only if their families were protected. Only if their names were not used beyond those walls. Their presence did what documents could not. It made the crime breathe. One woman looked at Dmitri and said, Your father's men took my passport. Marcus Chen got it back. He was not gentleman, but he helped, the other said. Pavel sold us. Constantine's people bought the route later. Men shifted in their chairs. Some looked ashamed. Some looked annoyed at being forced to feel shame. Both were useful. Salvatore finally looked at Constantine. You brought heat to our table, Constantine said. They are manipulating you. Salvatore shrugged. Of course. Everyone is. They are simply doing it with better evidence. For a moment, I thought that was the end. I thought Constantine would sit down, boxed in by documents, witnesses, and men who no longer wanted to be seen near him. Then I saw his left hand. It moved beneath his jacket, slow, too smooth. The same kind of movement I had seen in the diner. The body remembers danger before the mind accepts it. My breath stopped. Dmitri was still looking at Salvatore, Victor was watching the doorway. Constantine's eyes were on me. He smiled, not with triumph, with spite. He did not want to win anymore. He wanted to leave a scar. Dmitri, I said, one word too calm. He heard the change in my voice before he understood it. Constantine pulled the gun, not at Dmitri. At me, time became cruel again. The gun rising. Victor turning. Dmitri lunging. Men shouting. I did not pull Dmitri under a table this time. There was no table between us. No instinct without thought. This time, I thought. I grabbed the heavy leather folder in front of me and threw it at Constantina's face. Papers exploded across the room. The first shot went high, smashing the glass cabinet behind Salvatore. Dmitri hit me from the side, taking me to the floor as Victor fired twice. Constantine staggered, but he did not drop. He raised the gun again. Dmitri moved to cover me. I saw the line of fire. I saw how it would end. Not again, I thought. Not with him using his body as the only shield. My hand closed around the fallen recorder beneath the table, the heavy metal device we had used for testimony. I threw it as hard as I could. It struck Constantine's wrist. His shot went wide. Victor's next bullet hit his shoulder. Salvatore's man tackled him from behind. The room became noise. Men yelling, chairs scraping. Dimitri's arms around me, his voice in my ear. Are you hit, Elena? Are you hit? I could not answer at first. I was staring at the papers, scattered across the floor. Names, roots. Dead women, living women. My father's truth. Constantine had tried to turn the room back into violence, but this time the truth stayed visible. This time, nobody could pretend they had not seen it. I'm not hit, I said. Dmitri pulled back, searching my face. I touched his cheek. You. No good. My voice shook. Because I am tired of saving you from bullets. A wild, breathless laugh escaped him. It sounded almost broken. I will try to make that the last time. Constantine survived. Barely. That mattered. Not because I wanted mercy for him. Because dead men become myths in rooms like that. Living men give testimony when everyone they know abandons them. By morning, he was in custody through channels I did not ask too many questions about, tied to financial crimes, trafficking routes, and 3 murders his own men traded for reduced sentences. The underworld called it a fall. The newspapers called it a racketeering investigation. The women who had survived him called it one locked door finally opening. That mattered more. But the night did not end in triumph. It ended in a bathroom behind the private room, with me sitting on the closed toilet lid, while Dmitri knelt in front of me and cleaned a cut on my palm. I had not even noticed it. Broken glass from the cabinet. Small wound. Bright blood. His hands were steady, but his face was not. I almost lost you, he said. You did not. Because you saved us again. Because everyone moved. Victor, Salvatore's man. He wrapped gauze around my hand. Do not make me a symbol. Dmitri, I am tired. He looked up. I know, no. I mean it. I am not a miracle. I am not your redemption. I am a woman who is very scared and very angry and very tired. His eyes softened. Then tonight you are only that. Only Elena. No witness. No conscience. No partner. No brave girl. Just Elena. My throat closed. Sometimes the deepest kindness is permission to stop being impressive. I leaned forward until my forehead touched his. Take me home, I whispered. Which home? He asked. That question undid me, because I knew I had a choice. The penthouse. Brighton Beach. The old diner. Broken and waiting. My apartment. No longer mine. Or somewhere new. I looked at him and said, the penthouse. Tonight, he nodded. Tonight, in the weeks after. Dmitri created a legal fund, through one of his legitimate companies, for immigrant women escaping coercive labor and trafficking. Quietly. No press. No speeches. Salvatore contributed because Dmitri made it politically useful. Other men followed because shame, when aimed correctly, can become policy. Lydia's grandchildren got college accounts. The nurse and the cleaning company owner became advisors to the fund, paid for their time, not paraded as symbols. That was my condition. People are not props for redemption stories. Dmitri accepted that. Sometimes he still reached first for control. Sometimes I still flinched before trust. Healing was not a straight road. It was a series of rooms we entered again and again, trying not to become the worst thing that had happened to us. 3 months after the diner, I started night classes in criminal justice and nonprofit administration. The irony was not lost on me. The former waitress dating a mafia boss, studying systems of law by day and reading ledgers by night. But I wanted language for what I had seen. I wanted to understand how communities fall between law and crime. how poverty makes people vulnerable to men who offer protection with one hand and collect obedience with the other. I wanted to know how to build exits, not just for myself, for people like the women my father had tried to help, for people like my mother, who had worked until her body gave up because nobody had built a safety net beneath her. Dimitri did not become a saint. Let us be honest. Stories lie when they turn love into magic soap that washes blood from a man's hands. Dimitri remained dangerous. He remained feared. He still operated in shadows I did not pretend to fully control, but lines changed. Some businesses were sold, some routes closed, some men were removed, some money became clean because we forced it through daylight and taxes and contracts that could survive scrutiny. He hated meetings with accountants more than gunfire. I told him that was a sign of growth. He told me I was cruel. I said, "No, I am respectful. I believe you can suffer paperwork like other humans." He laughed more after that. Not often, but enough that Irina started making comments in Russian that made his ears turn red. The diner reopened 4 months after the shooting, not as a monument to Dimitri's father, not as a shrine to the night I saved him, as a place where the people working there were paid enough to live. Jerry came back as head cook and pretended not to cry when he saw the new kitchen. There were cameras outside, better locks, a panic button under the counter, and a rule posted in the staff room that said, "No customer's money is worth your dignity." I wrote that rule myself. Dimitri came by before opening night, stood in the doorway, and looked at the back booth. The vinyl had been replaced. The bullet holes were gone, but I had asked the carpenter to leave one small mark beneath the table, invisible unless you knew where to look. A tiny circle in the wood, not to glorify the violence, to remember the moment one life broke open and became another. "Does it hurt?" I asked him. He knew what I meant. His father, the diner, the ghosts. He touched the back of the booth. "Yes. Do you want to leave?" "No," he looked at me. "Do you?" I looked around the diner. The new counter, the clean windows, the staff laughing in the back, Jerry yelling about onions. A young waitress named Marisol, tying her apron with nervous hands, about to start her first shift at a job that would not treat her like she was disposable. "No," I said. "I want to stay for coffee." Dimitri looked suspicious. "Good coffee. Honest coffee. That means terrible. You relearning." He sat in the back booth. This time, not because he needed to see every exit, though he still did. This time, because he let me sit across from him. I poured him a cup. He drank it without making a face. "Mostly. Better," he said. "Liar. Respectful liar. Progress, not perfection." Marisol walked by with a pot of coffee and froze when she recognized him. Fear flickered across her face. I touched her arm gently. "He tips well," I said. Dimitri placed a $100 bill under his cup. Marisol's eyes widened. "Too well," I added. She laughed, and the fear broke. That mattered to me. The small things mattered now. A man like Dimitri could not undo the world in one grand gesture. But he could sit in a diner and let a young waitress be unafraid of him. He could tip without touching her hand. He could say thank you and mean it. He could practice respect until it became more than performance. 6 months after the diner, I stood in Dimitri's office reviewing a report from the legal fund, while rain touched the windows. Not the same rain, but it felt close enough to remember. I wore jeans, a white blouse, and the gold key at my throat. My hair was tied back. There was coffee on the desk. Good coffee this time. Almost Dimitri sat across from me, reading a contract, glasses low on his nose. The first time I saw him wear them, I laughed for almost a full minute. "You look like a professor who assigns impossible reading," I had said. "I speak 6 languages and have killed men," he replied. "Yes," I said, "but the glasses are very humble." Now he looked up and caught me watching him. "What?" I was thinking about the diner. His face softened. It still surprised me, that softness. "Regrets," I answered honestly, because honesty was the spine of whatever we had built. "Some fears, some grief, no regrets." He stood and came around the desk. Not one. I thought of my old apartment. My grandmother's jewelry box now on a shelf in my room here. Not hidden under a bed. My father's letter preserved in a frame. Not because he was perfect, but because one brave act deserves witness. My mother's photograph beside it. Lydia's testimony. Svetlana's pencil marks on Dimitri's childhood wall, which we had protected behind glass. It's because I insisted history should not be painted over. I thought of the woman I had been at 3 in the morning, wiping a stain that would never leave. Believing survival was the most she could ask from life. "Not one," I said. Dimitri touched the key at my throat. "You know what this means to me now. Access, trust, Responsibility, I corrected. He smiled. Yes, that too. He kissed my forehead, and I let myself lean into him, not because I needed his strength to stand, because I liked the warmth. There is a difference. The phone on his desk buzzed. He ignored it. That was new too. Work, I said. Always. Dinner with your mother tonight. She called 3 times to remind me. Good. Someone should scare you. Many people scare me. No, many people fear you. Different thing. He considered that. You scare me. Good. Because you leave doors open. I looked toward the windows, where the city spread below us in millions of lights. Each one a room, a person, a story. Some safe, some not. Doors matter, I said. A locked door saved my life. An open one gave me a choice. Need both. Dimitri wrapped his arms around me from behind. For a moment, we stood like that, watching New York breathe. Somewhere below, another waitress was pouring coffee for someone who did not see her. Somewhere, another young man was being taught that tenderness was weakness. Somewhere, another woman was deciding whether fear would make her hide or move. I wished I could tell them what I had learned, without making it sound easy. It was not easy. Being seen can be frightening when invisibility has been your armor. Loving a wounded person does not mean handing them the knife and hoping they do not cut you. Power without respect is only another form of hunger, and courage is not a dramatic thing most days. It is a quiet decision, to ask the question, to tell the truth, to leave when you must, to stay only when staying does not require you to disappear. The phone buzzed again. Dimitri sighed. I pulled away and handed it to him. Be human, I said. Then be terrifying if necessary. He looked amused. In that order. Always, he answered the call. His voice changed, becoming colder, sharper, the boss returning. But his free hand found mine and held it openly on the desk, where anyone entering could see, not hidden, not claimed, joined. That was our impossible balance. The monster and the man, the waitress and the witness, the empire and the work of changing what could be changed. That night at the diner, I thought I had saved Dmitri Vulov from a bullet. Maybe I did, but that was not the whole truth. I had also saved myself from a life where being safe meant being unseen, and Dmitri, in his broken, dangerous, stubborn way, had begun saving himself from the lie that power was the only thing keeping him alive. The rain kept falling. The city kept shining, and for the first time in my life, I did not feel like a woman waiting for the next bad thing to happen. I felt like a woman standing at the window of a difficult, beautiful, unfinished life, holding the key in her own hand. Then Demetrius' face changed. Not much, just enough. The softness left his eyes, but his hand did not release mine. What is it? I asked. He listened to the voice on the phone. His jaw tightened. Say that again. The room cooled around us. I heard nothing from the call except a faint murmur. Dimitri looked at me then, and I saw the old storm return. Not fear, recognition. Constantine talked, he said after ending the call, before the transfer. And he says he was not the first to reopen my father's route. I felt the key against my throat. Suddenly it seemed heavier. Who was? Dimitri looked toward the rain-dark windows. Toward the city, full of lights and locked rooms and stories waiting behind them. Someone my father feared. The phone lay silent on the desk. The rain kept falling, and somewhere out there, another ghost had just opened its eyes.